Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that can save you years of heartbreak, embarrassment, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. Everybody does not deserve access to every part of you. I'm going to say that one more time because somebody needs to hear it deep down in their spirit. Everybody does not deserve access to every part of you. A wise woman understands that being honest does not mean exposing everything. Being loving does not mean telling somebody every fear you have. Being open does not mean handing somebody the entire blueprint to your heart and then praying they don't use it against you. See, there's a difference between being genuine and being completely exposed. And some women learn that difference the hard way. They meet a man, they like him, they start feeling comfortable, and before they even know what this relationship is, they have already told him everything. What their ex did, what their family did, what their deepest insecurity is, what they are afraid of, how badly they want to be chosen, how terrified they are of being alone, how much they hate their body, how many times they have been rejected, how badly they want marriage, how scared they are he might leave. And now she thinks she has created intimacy. No, baby, sometimes you have created a folder, and that folder is now sitting in somebody else's hands. Ladies and gentlemen, wisdom teaches you something that emotions don't always teach you. Information has power. What a person knows about you can determine how they treat you, what they manipulate, what they respect, what they test, and what they take for granted. And that is why a wise woman learns there are certain things she should never rush to tell a man, not because she is playing games, not because she is trying to be fake, not because she wants to manipulate him, but because she understands that trust is earned. Let me make something clear. A wise woman is not cold. She is not heartless. She is not pretending she doesn't care. She can love deeply. She can be affectionate. She can be soft, she can laugh, she can cry, she can open her heart, but she does not open every door on the first visit. That's wisdom. A house can be beautiful and still have locked rooms, and there is nothing wrong with that. You don't walk into a man's life and give him the keys to your entire emotional house because he bought you dinner twice and texted you, "Good morning." Slow down, everybody saying, "Good morning," ain't your husband. Everybody calling you beautiful ain't your soulmate. Everybody telling you they have never felt this way before is not automatically qualified to handle your heart. And that's one of the biggest lessons a woman has to learn. Attention is not commitment. Chemistry is not character. Words are not consistency. And attraction is not a guarantee of safety. Now, let me tell you the first thing a wise woman does not tell a man too early. She does not tell him her deepest insecurity and hand him the exact weapon that could break her. Listen carefully. I'm not telling women to hide their humanity. Everybody has insecurities. Everybody has wounds. Everybody has moments where they don't feel good enough. That's called being human. But there is a difference between eventually allowing a trusted partner to understand your vulnerabilities and quickly handing your vulnerabilities to someone who hasn't proven they can handle them. You don't give a stranger the combination to your safe. Why? Because you don't know who they are yet. And dating is getting to know who somebody is, not getting to convince them to like you. A woman who knows her worth does not say, "Let me tell you everything that's wrong with me so you can decide whether I'm still lovable." No, she says, "Get to know me, watch me, observe my heart, observe my character, observe how I move, observe how I treat people, observe whether I keep my word, observe whether I respect myself, and I will observe you too." Because relationships are not auditions where the woman performs and waits for the man to announce whether she has been accepted. No, ma'am, you are evaluating too. He is not the only one with standards. You have standards. And one of those standards should be this: can I trust you with the parts of me that are still healing? Because a wise woman knows something. Everybody who asks where it hurts does not want to help you heal. Some people want to know where it hurts so they know exactly where to press. And that's why you have to be careful. You have to stop confusing emotional exposure with emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy takes time. It is built through consistency. It is built through respect. It is built through accountability. It is built through seeing somebody in difficult situations. Anybody can act sweet when they are trying to get you. What happens when they don't get their way? Anybody can be romantic during the honeymoon stage. What happens when conflict shows up? Anybody can tell you, "I never hurt you." What happens when you disagree? That is when character starts talking. And a wise woman listens to character. She does not get hypnotized by speeches because people can say anything. Words are cheap, behavior costs, consistency costs, integrity costs, patience costs, sacrifice costs, respect costs. So watch what he pays for. Now, the second thing a wise woman does not tell a man is this. She does not tell him how terrified she is of losing him. Now, I know somebody is going to say, "But what's wrong with telling your partner how much you care?" Nothing. There is nothing wrong with love. There is something dangerous about making your fear of abandonment more important than your self-respect. There is a difference. A woman can say, "I love you." A woman can say, "You matter to me." A woman can say, "I want this relationship." But a wise woman doesn't tell a man, "I cannot survive without you." Because the moment you convince yourself that you cannot survive without somebody, you start tolerating things you should leave. You start negotiating with disrespect. You start accepting excuses. You start shrinking your standards. You start chasing. You start begging. You start making excuses for behavior you would never advise your best friend to accept. Why? Because fear has taken the driver's seat. Fear says, "Keep him at any cost." Wisdom says, "I want him, but I do not need to destroy myself to keep him." Do you understand the difference? That is power. A wise woman can love a man and still know how to walk away. She can be heartbroken and still leave. She can miss him and still leave. She can cry at night and still leave. She can wish it had worked and still leave because her identity is bigger than the relationship. Her future is bigger than the relationship. Her purpose is bigger than the relationship. Her life is bigger than the relationship. And when a woman understands that, she stops trying to prove her value to someone who is committed to misunderstanding it. Listen to me. You should never have to convince somebody to treat you well. Never a man who respects you should not need a 20-minute presentation explaining why lying hurts. He should know honesty matters. A man who values you should not need a documentary series explaining why disappearing for 3 days is disrespectful. He should understand communication. A man who truly cares about you should not repeatedly cross your boundaries and then act surprised when you get tired. At some point, your silence is not confusion, it's information. And wise women know how to read information. See, too many women are constantly asking, "What does he mean?" Baby, stop studying the subtitles and watch the movie. Watch what he does. That is where the answer is. You can spend 6 hours analyzing one text message. What did he mean by okay? What does that emoji mean? Why did he like my story but not text me? Why did he watch my video? Why did he say he misses me but not make plans? Ladies, at some point, you're not dating a man. You're doing detective work. And you should not have to become Sherlock Holmes to understand whether somebody values you. A wise woman does not chase clarity from somebody committed to giving her confusion. She steps back, she watches, she observes, she lets time reveal character. Because time is one of the greatest truth tellers in relationships. You can fake consistency for a week. Can you fake it for 6 months? You can pretend to care for a little while. Can you maintain it under pressure? You can put on a good face when you want something. Can you still be respectful when you don't get what you want? That is the man you need to pay attention to. And ladies, let me tell you something else. Do not confuse a man's curiosity about your pain with his capacity to protect your heart. A man may ask you about your past because he is genuinely interested, or he may be collecting information. You don't know yet. That's why trust takes time. A wise woman lets a man earn access to her emotions, access to her history, access to her vulnerabilities, access to her future plans, access to her deepest dreams. Not because she wants to create distance, because she wants to create discernment. Discernment is knowing that everybody doesn't get the same version of you. Everybody gets respect, but everybody does not get intimacy. Everybody gets kindness, but everybody does not get your secrets. Everybody deserves basic courtesy, but everybody does not deserve your trust. And that distinction can save you from a whole lot of pain. Now, let me talk about something else women need to understand. Do not tell a man every detail about your previous relationship on the first few dates. You don't need to give him the entire autobiography of your ex. You don't need to explain every betrayal. You don't need to reveal every private detail. You don't need to compare him to your old relationship. And you certainly don't need to spend 3 hours proving that you were the victim and your ex was the villain, because wisdom asks a different question. What did you learn? That's what matters. You can say, that relationship taught me I need communication. Good. You can say, I learned that I won't tolerate disrespect. Good. You can say, I value consistency now. Beautiful. But don't give someone a detailed manual of every emotional scar before they've even shown you whether they're safe. That's not intimacy. That's emotional oversharing. And some people overshare because they are desperate to be understood. I understand that. But being understood by the wrong person does not heal you. It can expose you. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can say is, that part of my story took me a long time to process. I'll share it when I feel safe. That's mature. That's confident. That's powerful. You don't owe everybody immediate access to your deepest pain. Your story belongs to you. You decide when it gets told. You decide how much gets told. You decide who has earned the right to hear it. And ladies, stop thinking that being mysterious means being manipulative. There is a difference between mystery and deception. Mystery means you have layers. Deception means you are lying. A woman can be honest without telling everything. She can be transparent without being exposed. She can be loving without being desperate. She can be soft without being weak. She can be vulnerable without being careless. That is the balance. And the more secure you become, the less you feel the need to explain everything. An insecure person talks too much because they want approval. A secure person allows people to discover them. There's a confidence in saying, you'll get to know me over time. Not because you're playing games, because you're not rushing. And life is full of people who move too fast. They meet somebody. 2 weeks later, they're planning forever. 3 weeks later, they are sharing bank information. A month later, they're telling everybody they're the one. Then a few months later, they're crying because they discovered what time would have shown them if they had simply slowed down. Listen, time is not your enemy. Time is your friend. Let a man reveal himself. Don't rush to fill in the blanks. Don't make excuses for missing pieces. Don't use your imagination to complete somebody's character. You are not dating potential. You are dating behavior. If he says he's serious, observe. If he says he's loyal, observe. If he says family matters, observe. If he says you're important, observe. And women, please stop trying to teach grown men basic respect. You are not the dean of the University of Emotional Development. You are not running a rehabilitation center. You are not his mother. You are not his life coach. You should not have to spend months saying, this is how you communicate. This is how you apologize. This is how you show appreciation. This is why disappearing is wrong. At some point, you have to accept that people know what they are doing. A wise woman knows when to stop explaining and start observing. And here's another lesson. Never tell a man, I'll do anything to keep you. Don't say it, because healthy love does not require you to destroy your standards. Never say, I'll change anything you don't like about me. Why? Because the right person should appreciate the woman you're becoming, not demand that you erase yourself to make them comfortable. You can grow. You should grow. You should become wiser, calmer, stronger, healthier, more mature. But growth is different from self-erasure. You're not supposed to disappear so somebody else can feel powerful. You're not supposed to become smaller so he can feel bigger. You're not supposed to silence your voice so he can feel comfortable. You are not supposed to abandon your friends, your dreams, your values, your personality, your goals, or your boundaries just because you're afraid he might leave. Let him leave. Yes, I said it. If a man requires you to betray yourself in order to keep him, then losing him is not your greatest loss. Losing yourself would have been. Because when you lose yourself trying to keep somebody else, the relationship might survive, but the woman inside it starts disappearing. And one day you wake up and ask yourself, who am I? That's too expensive. Don't pay that price. A wise woman keeps her own identity. She maintains her friendships. She maintains her ambitions. She continues learning. She continues building. She keeps her relationship with herself strong. Because the healthier your relationship with yourself, the healthier your relationship with anybody else becomes. And here's something else. Never tell a man every standard you have like you're reading instructions off a box. Let your standards be demonstrated through your behavior. You don't have to announce, I have high standards. Show it. If he disrespects you, your response shows it. If he disappears repeatedly, your response shows it. If he is inconsistent, your standards show it. You don't need a speech. You don't need a threat. You don't need a social media post. You don't need to put a quote on Instagram about knowing your worth. Know it privately. Live it quietly. That's real confidence. And that's where many women get confused. They think power means making sure everybody knows they have power. No, real power doesn't shout all day. Real power can leave the room. Real power can say no. Real power can wait. Real power can watch. Real power does not beg. Real power does not chase. Real power does not need revenge. Real power knows, I am enough with you, and I will still be enough without you. That's the mindset. And when you think like that, you stop being terrified of losing people. You start being terrified of losing your peace. You start protecting your mental space. You start protecting your standard. You start protecting your time. You start protecting your dignity. And once a woman understands that, she becomes incredibly difficult to manipulate. Because manipulation works best when somebody knows you're afraid. If I'm terrified you're going to leave, you can threaten to leave. If I'm terrified of being alone, you can give me crumbs and I will call it a meal. If I'm terrified that nobody else will love me, I will accept the love that hurts me. But when I know I can walk away, everything changes. Now I'm not asking, how do I make him stay? I'm asking, does this relationship deserve to continue? That's a completely different question. And ladies, that question will change your life. Stop asking, how do I make him choose me? Ask, is he worthy of my choice? Stop asking, what should I do so he doesn't lose interest? Ask, does his behavior deserve my interest? Stop asking, how can I get him to love me? Ask, does this relationship create love, respect, peace, and growth? You see the difference? That's maturity. That's wisdom. A wise woman does not make a man the center of her universe. She allows him to be part of her universe. That's different. She has purpose. She has goals. She has standards. She has a life. She has dreams that existed before he showed up. And those dreams still matter. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most attractive things about a woman is not how hard she tries to keep a man. It's how deeply she knows herself. A woman who knows herself does not have to chase attention. She does not need constant validation. She does not need every conversation to confirm that she is beautiful. She knows. She doesn't need a man to tell her she has value before she believes it. She already believes it. And because she believes it, she becomes selective. She's not impressed by every compliment. She's watching character. She's not seduced by every promise. She's watching consistency. She's not moved by every apology. She's watching changed behavior. That's the difference between a woman who is simply attracted and a woman who is emotionally intelligent. And let me tell you something powerful. Being wise does not mean you never get hurt. A wise woman can still get her heart broken. She can still choose the wrong man. She can still misjudge somebody. She can still love someone who doesn't love her correctly. Wisdom does not make you immune to pain. Wisdom teaches you what to do with pain. You don't let one bad relationship convince you that love is dead. You don't let one betrayal convince you that all men are bad. You don't let one disappointment make you bitter. You learn, you heal, you grow, and you become more discerning. You stop saying, "Why does this always happen to me?" and start saying, "What did this teach me about myself?" That's growth. Maybe it taught you that you ignore red flags when you're emotionally attached. Maybe it taught you that you confuse potential with reality. Maybe it taught you that loneliness makes you compromise. Maybe it taught you that you need boundaries. Maybe it taught you that you need to stop trying to rescue people. Whatever the lesson is, learn it. Because if you don't learn it, life will keep sending you the same test with a different face. Ladies, don't be afraid to let a man discover your value over time. You do not have to prove everything on day one. You don't need to show him how deeply you love. He can discover that. He doesn't need your entire heart immediately. He can earn it, and that doesn't make you difficult. It makes you responsible with your heart. Your heart is not a public park. Everybody doesn't get to walk in whenever they want. There are gates, there are boundaries, there are standards, and there should be. So remember the two things. Don't rush to tell a man your deepest insecurity. And don't rush to tell a man how terrified you are of losing him. Those two things can make you vulnerable in the wrong way. Instead, let him discover your strength. Let him discover your character. Let him discover your loyalty. Let him discover your softness. Let him discover your dreams. Let him discover your humor. Let him discover your intelligence. Let him discover your heart through consistency. And as he discovers you, you discover him. That's how healthy relationships work. Not one person auditioning while the other person judges. Two people observing, two people learning, two people choosing, two people building. And when both people bring maturity, honesty, responsibility, and respect, something beautiful can happen. But it starts with discernment. Ladies and gentlemen, hear me clearly. You are not required to tell everybody everything about you just because they ask. You are not required to confess every fear. You are not required to explain every wound. You are not required to prove your love through emotional exposure. And you are definitely not required to sacrifice your dignity to keep a relationship alive. You can love deeply and still move wisely. You can be romantic and still have boundaries. You can be soft and still be strong. You can trust and still pay attention. You can forgive and still require change. You can care and still walk away. That is not contradiction. That's maturity. So the next time you meet a man and you feel that temptation to tell him everything because you want him to understand you, pause, breathe. Ask yourself one question. Has he earned access to this part of me? Not, does he want to know? Not, will he like me more if I tell him? Not, will he feel closer to me? Ask, has he earned access? Because your heart deserves a gatekeeper. And that gatekeeper is you. Stop handing out keys to people who haven't even learned how to knock. Stop giving permanent access to temporary people. Stop confusing someone's interest with their character. Stop giving your deepest wounds to people who haven't even shown you they can handle your ordinary emotions. And stop being afraid that protecting your heart will make you miss love. The right person will not punish you for having boundaries. The right person will respect them. The right person will understand that trust is built. The right person will not pressure you into revealing everything. The right person will not use your vulnerability as ammunition. The right person will be patient enough to let trust grow. And when that kind of love arrives, you won't need to force it. You won't need to chase it. You won't need to beg for it. You won't need to perform for it. You will be able to breathe. And that's what healthy love feels like. Not constant anxiety, not constant guessing, not constant proving peace. So ladies, protect your peace. Protect your standards. Protect your identity. Protect your dreams. Protect your heart. And most importantly, protect your ability to walk away from anything that repeatedly disrespects you. Because the goal is not to become so guarded that nobody can love you. The goal is to become so wise that you know who deserves access. That's the lesson. You don't have to tell him everything to prove you're real. You don't have to reveal every insecurity to prove you're vulnerable. You don't have to announce how afraid you are to lose him to prove that you care. Let your character speak. Let your actions speak. Let your boundaries speak. Let your peace speak. Let time speak. And when the right man arrives, he won't need you to destroy your mystery to understand your value. He will recognize it. Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every woman's life when she finally understands something simple but powerful. I do not need to be chosen at the expense of choosing myself. That's when everything changes. That's when she stops chasing. That's when she stops over-explaining. That's when she stops begging. That's when she stops accepting breadcrumbs. That's when she stops telling everybody everything. That's when she becomes selective. That's when she becomes peaceful. That's when she becomes dangerous to anybody who thought they could manipulate her, because now she knows. She knows what she brings. She knows what she deserves. She knows what she will tolerate. She knows what she won't. And she knows that losing the wrong person is not failure. Sometimes it's freedom. So stand tall, love yourself, take your time, watch actions. Protect your vulnerability. And remember, a wise woman doesn't reveal everything just because someone wants to know. She reveals what is appropriate to this person who has earned it at the time when trust makes it safe. That's not playing games. That's wisdom. That's self-respect. And that's how a woman stops being easily impressed and starts being deeply respected. Because when you know your worth, you stop handing out pieces of yourself hoping somebody will finally appreciate the whole. You already know you're valuable. Now let other people prove they are worthy of access to you. And never forget this. You can love somebody with all your heart without handing them the power to destroy your life. You can care deeply without losing yourself. You can be open without being careless. You can be vulnerable without being available to manipulation. And you can walk away with tears in your eyes and dignity in your heart. That's strength. That's maturity. That's the kind of wisdom that can change your relationships, your standards, your confidence, and your entire life. So don't tell him everything. Let him earn the privilege of knowing the parts of you that are precious. Because your heart is valuable. Your peace is valuable. Your story is valuable. Your future is valuable. And a wise woman knows that not everybody who wants access deserves it. Remember that, live that. And never apologize for it. Because the woman who chooses herself is never truly alone. She has something even more powerful than attention. She has peace, she has standards, she has self-respect. And she has the courage to say, I would rather lose someone who doesn't value me than lose myself trying to make them stay. Now that's a woman who knows her worth.